Welcome to another episode of Not Investment Advice. If you're watching this, I'm not even going to do the intros properly this week. We got Trung, Jack, and Bilal. You already know that by now. Trung is laying on a sofa right now, and we got Jack.
I'm laying on my toddler's
You
bed.
laid out.
Because my toddler is closest to the Wi-Fi router, and the TLDR for listeners and viewers is I blew out my back on Saturday. And, have you guys ever thrown out your back?
I done neck really bad once, which was like lay down.
Similar
but back
vibe,
and neck is just grim.
Back is you can't do anything.
Like, you know, like the cliche stuff, take care of your back, and like when people get old, they just, you know, people get old and they start walking and hold their lower back. That's like me, and like I'm not old, right? I'm like, and
Subjective, Trung.
well, let me tell my story quickly because I think people have a laugh. So just imagine about on Saturday around 10 a.m. I was with my son and literally crawling on all fours on the sidewalk of Vancouver for about 30 meters, crawling like a full-grown adult with a child.
What happened? It just snapped. Was like a snap thing. You just went.
No, I know what happened is it did snap, but I know where it came from. I was at the library as my kid, and you know how they got the kids chairs?
Yeah.
So I think it was probably a decade of buildup of just being in awful posture, like sitting slumped over in your chair while you work. And then since I've had my kid, I'm always sitting in his little stools and like being like in like the squatting position. And I threw out my back like a decade ago trying to be a hero at the gym. Did you guys ever injure yourself at the gym?
Yeah. A few times.
So,
probably this morning, mate, to be honest.
Bro, exactly. Like, and the number one way for me to injure myself was deadlifts, because deadlifts is obviously the ones you can lift the most weight, right? It's like, everybody knows that the deadlift is the one you can do the most weight on. Probably 3 or 4 times I've legit thrown out my back. And what throwing out your back entails is you either like tear your ligaments or you strain the muscle. So it's like an ankle sprain, right? It's like your that muscle just like is so tender, except your lower back controls everything.
Yeah,
you can't
so
do anything.
Talking of deadlifts, Trung, do you want to show off your belt that you're wearing right now?
I'm wearing like a grown man, like a stability belt, man. I can't believe we're keeping the video for this.
No, respect for you joining. We were saying, me and Jack are like, Trung, you don't need to do this. You can just chill this week.
Well,
me and Jack got it, but you wanted to come in.
To the world. I got to shout out to, they never even gave me their phone number, but if Danielle and Mike, if you're listening to this, very low odds that you are, but those were the 2 individuals that helped me make sure me and my kid could get to the car. They actually drove my car around to where I was. I was 30 meters away from the car, and I'm like, I can't even make it. They're like, we're just going to drive the car.
That's a long crawl. You'd be looking like our boy Leo in the Wolf of Wall Street, crawling through.
Yeah, dude, unreal.
All right, so that was a big week in Trung's world. Jack also had a bit of a big week. Jack, I don't know what you wanted to share, but real quick one for the NI crew.
Baby number 2, welcome to the world.
There we go.
Can we get Antonio to do the celebratory balloons and stuff?
iMessage thing, yeah.
100%. Well, congrats, mate. Hope you guys are doing well. And that was why, obviously you couldn't join last week. Understandably, we was surprised you were even able to join this week because I'm sure you've been.
Let's give a special shout out to. Well, first of all, shout out to Celia, who, if she has time to listen, congratulations. I know that the moms do all the hard work. That's what my wife reminds me of all the time.
Just facts.
So, and the other thing that listeners and viewers might have noticed is Jack ain't taking a break. This dude has been on Twitter.
There we go. Not just on Twitter. That is the best segue ever, because we're going to talk about what Jack did in last week, your NFT project. We thought there's a bear market, but Jack is single-handedly bringing the NFT market back into life, man. So we're going to talk about Jack's Checks project. That was very, very successful, not just in terms of volume and people getting involved, but just, it's a really cool concept and what you did. So we want to talk about that. We're also going to talk about CES was just this week, so we're going to get some Vegas stories in, but also talk about the best best said breast. The best
Vegas,
products
you're
that have
Vegas,
come out
bro.
of that.
That's
Yeah, exactly.
Yo,
The Freudian
Bilal,
slip there was strong. There you go.
Bilal, have you been to CES?
Do you know what? I actually haven't been to CES. I've been to Vegas a few times, but not CES.
What about you, Jack?
I always skipped it.
I've never been to CES.
Dude, Bilal, you'll love this. I went to CES because of my friend worked at Google, and she's like, we got a room at the Wynn, like, Anna, you should come down, just take the room.
Nice.
I'll never be there, like, here's some passes. So anyways,
was it for the conference, or was it like a...
Yeah, it was for the whole thing. That was a 2018?
Oh, I might have been at the same one, man. That's crazy.
Yeah, bro.
Oh no, actually, sorry, 2018. I'd been gone by then. But yeah, we'll bring that back up, the Vegas stories, because I know Jack's got some old Vegas stories in there too. Trung might have some stories that he's not even able to tell, but we'll get it out of him. And then we'll see if we get to the last one. We might want to talk about Microsoft and OpenAI. We'll see if there's room for that.
We'll definitely touch on that. At a minimum, we should give another shout out to Satya Nadella. Man, this guy
bodying people right now. Just pulling out there. He's just turning up, man.
Laugh. It's hurting my back, man.
All right, so we'll get to that in a bit. But Jack, why don't we just start off, because we just talked about you having a big week. I think in the text, I can't remember the exact phrase you said, but I feel like this brings the best out of you at, like, I don't want to say tough times, but high stress times.
Yeah.
You just go turbo mode. So what was the concept for the Checks project, and how did it go, man?
Sure. So there's something about, I think, I don't know, maybe your responsibility increasing exponentially gets you thinking creatively. But so last week, I can't remember the day, it's probably 4 or 5 days ago now, I had this idea. I was sitting having breakfast at home, and I mean, a lot of the stuff that we've spoken about on the pod in the last year, and Twitter being such a pillar of the business that I've been working on for the last 3 years, all of these changes that are happening with Twitter, all of the, obviously, NFT, the culture around NFTs and the way that people's perception of NFTs are changing. There's just all this stacked context that led me to this idea, which I'll pull up the visual here, which was an open edition NFT that I published, which basically means the supply is unlimited, and you can set a amount of time. So I set this to a 24-hour window, minted this piece, and visually, I've got a whole thread here. Maybe we can throw it in the notes, but there's some inspiration from some very well-known legacy, in inverted commas, artists here. And it's a play on this idea of, and I noticed that Trung switched his checkmark recently from this person, this is a legacy checkmark. This may or not be notable to Twitter Blue. So basically a commentary on this idea of being able to purchase status. What does it mean? Who determines who is notable and who isn't, et cetera, et cetera. So it's meant to begin life as just this commentary on that idea. And 16,000 copies of it were minted by about 2,500 people, I think, something like that.
That's wild, man. Like, how many were you expecting? Here, let's give the context. We're in an absolute NFT bear market, right?
I would say this open edition, meta, or this kind of, there's been a few successful versions of this in the last few weeks because of the state of the market, right? The $500,000 NFT is not in vogue anymore. They're not moving in the volumes or at the frequency they were when we started talking about all this stuff. So this is kind of similar to the way that I think, the 10,000 profile picture template was it just kind of exploded after you see a successful version of it, with Bored Apes probably being the best example of one that reached mass distribution. And then 2-3 months later, all of these copycat things come out with the same mechanic. This open edition thing is kind of it's in its nascent stages of exploration. Marketplaces are shipping these features that let you create open editions and go lower price point, higher volume, right?
So can you explain what is open and what does that mean? Open edition.
So an open edition is it's an NFT in the same way that a Bored Ape is an NFT, and in the collection is extendable to the number of tokens that people volunteer to mint, as opposed to you presetting the amount of tokens. Okay.
So you said you had 16,000 from 2,500 people?
Trung doing some quick math there. I see that.
Oh yeah. So, but now, what is there a time period where you can stop? Like, no more minting can happen after X time.
So that was in 24 hours. They sold that many in 24 hours, and then the mint
insane,
shuts.
Man.
Dude,
incredible.
That's incredible, man.
And then the secondary market takes over, right? So you buy them for a fixed price in an open edition, and they were $8 each because of the checkmark pricing. So it's a play on that idea. And then the secondary market, they trade beyond that.
What do you get on the secondary trade?
If someone opts into royalties, 10% on each, but people can opt out. No, I'm saying on the transaction side, when people buy, they can opt in or out of paying royalties.
Okay.
Oh, I thought automatically it just goes to you for that. Okay, got it.
Jack, 8 times 16,000. Is this correct? 8 times 16,000?
Yeah.
Let me switch
I thought you were going to say the answer,
Yo! So
I got to switch that view,
you did
sorry.
128 grand.
Well, the marketplace takes 5%.
Okay, well, Peter, you did. Okay, for long-time NIE listeners, remember, episode 0 of this show is Jack talking about one of his NFT
I was going to bring that up. Here we go. NFTs explained. Classic. Yeah. This is what kicked it all off, right, Jack? I think this was your first one?
No, this was a few weeks into me playing around.
But this was, I think, sorry, 70, it was first one we spoke about, sorry, because I think it was on episode 001.
Yeah.
Of NI.
74, that one.
Yeah, so that was massive. Dude, you're going into it not really knowing what that would be. But again, this was the height, or at least the beginning part of the NFT craze, right?
You know what? You know a good stat on that one? That one sold on the highest volume of NFT sales ever. That day was the most.
Damn.
I don't know if that's still true, but at the time, that was the highest volume of sales on chain ever. So that was definitely indicative of a moment in time, right?
Wait, hold on. Just to rewind here. Jack sold that picture that Bilal just put on the highest volume day, basically before the kickoff. And then he bought a bunch of Bored Apes. He sold a bunch of Bored Apes after going to NFT NYC and be like, this is the top. And then now, at what may or may not be the nadir, the bottom, he's back in the game and maybe kicking off the next bull run. Greatest NFT trader ever. Creating too, to be fair. The flip was definitely Bored Ape, which was amazing. But no, I mean, respect. The cool thing here is like that first one sold for wherever it was. I can't remember the amount. You just said it, but a lot of money. But that was one person buying it, right? Yes. This is 16,000 editions of it from several thousand people buying it
for $8. It's very different for someone spending 100 grand on one. And by the way, this is probably very obvious, but the $8 is because of the verified cost, right? So and now Fame thing. Twitter verified, for anyone who didn't get that from earlier. And so, and then also, Jack, I'm just curious on the visual, again, seems obvious to maybe me, but could you talk through the actual visual a little bit?
Yeah, sure. So it's 80 check marks in a perfect grid, and every single check mark is a different color. So again, a nod to like this idea of what color is the check mark? Did you buy it? Are you a business? Are you this? Is this art? You probably have seen Damien Hirst dots, heavily inspired by that idea of these composed dots that live on different canvases at different sizes. And it's just kind of merging all these themes together. And then basically, I had no idea how the edition was going to go, right? 10 people could have bought it. And based on the volume of it, decided to turn it into something else, like continue to develop the concept, make it a more interactive experience.
Oh, that's interesting. So you can still, I did not realize that you could keep layering things on top of it. Like what did you layer on top?
So my initial idea, if I can share my screen again, I'll try and do this with considering people are listening too. So I explained it in this thread, like that image that we just looked up, that was kind of the genesis of it, right? Playing with this idea of what an NFT is, because that really is indicative of what it is. It's a social contract, right? This is valuable because the social connections around it are valuable and have been validated by X amount of people. And my first idea was to kind of take these 16,000 tokens and have a game on chain where you would compete for status, basically. So you would be able to burn, so destroy the token that you bought as an addition, and get in exchange, we would split the canvas up into 80 parts, and only 80 people could then own the one-of-one tokens that were single check marks. Does that make sense?
Got it. Yeah.
Yes.
So you burn 1,000 of them and you get one check mark in exchange. So we're trying to reduce the supply of the original editions and create a secondary collection that represents like people's chase for status.
How's that been going? Have people been doing it?
So we didn't build this. This is like, I've got like probably a 60.
That was the original idea, you're saying?
I got like a 60 tweet thread here, right? So I've gone through and tried to iterate this whole thing in public. So this was my first idea. Here's why I don't think it's a good idea. Here's like why I'm changing it, blah, blah, blah. So I've got probably 60 threads, 60 tweets here that explain the thinking. So we went from that idea to like, okay, I got feedback from a few people and they're like, yeah, that's cool, but the 81st person is going to burn all their stuff and get nothing, right? That's not really the best experience. But the artistic statement is cool, right? It's like destroy all of this work, and the art becomes the commentary on the whole idea. So I won't labor every point in here, but I continue to develop it to the point where here's a mechanic where you burn a combination of, so first part of it, you can burn your identical edition for a completely unique new original. That's going to be the first mechanic. So everybody's looks the same right now, but we're going to build this thing where you can burn the one you bought, you can see it in this video here, for a completely original version. You guys see that?
Yeah.
And then beyond that, this is going to be hard to explain, but I got a visual in this tweet thread. You need two 80s. You burn two 80s, you get a 40. You burn two 40s, you get a 20. You burn two 20s, you get a 10. You burn two 10s, you get a 5. You burn two 4s, you get a 1. And that's based on this idea called a semi-perfect number, which, Trung, you might enjoy this. It's a combination of, so a semi-perfect number is a number that can be reached by adding up a number of perfect divisors. Make sense? I got another visual for that somewhere. Here. So 80 is divisible by 40, 20, 10, 5, 4, and 1. And if you add all of those together, you get 80. Make sense?
That's a semi-perfect number right there. That's what, semi-perfect.
Yeah, you knew that. That's the CFA module 1, right?
I actually did not know that.
Week 1.
Wait, question. So this was way more successful than you even imagined, right?
I think so. I mean, I had no idea what to expect. I think the network effect that comes off the back of 16,000 of them is obviously so much more significant than 100 or so. And I almost think of it like it's like product market fit kind of. You know, you get distribution, you get interest in a piece of work. It's like art as an idea, and then you have an opportunity to iterate based on the fact that the first component of this thing has been validated. Does it make sense?
Man, dude, unreal. Just
incredible work, man.
Nothing will put hair in your balls more than having the second kid, man. You're just like, oh my goodness, man. Jack's just looking at that private school education, another mouth to feed. Yo, dude, congrats, man.
No, that's legit, man. No, it's the full circle, man. You started with making stuff, then you bought some Bored Apes. You kept making them throughout, but this is a very different environment. And so beyond just the success of it financially, which is obviously a good thing, it's just like a really cool commentary on everything going on, which is kind of consistent with what you've been doing throughout anyway. But very different to the last one.
Yeah, I will, for anybody interested, go check out this thread. I would explain the rest of it, but there's a lot of mechanics that go into it that ultimately, like, the game is going to start when we deploy this next part. So it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out. Like, the art is going to be basically a artifact of the behavior around the collection. It will represent how far people wanted to take this thing. So maybe people take the 16,000, make 16,000 originals, and we're done, right? That could be one outcome. The other outcome is to get these black check marks at the bottom here. You have to burn 4,000 pieces of the original collection.
Jack, will you have an economic interest in any of these future game mechanics?
I just have, I bought on the secondary. I forgot to hold any tokens myself idiotically. So I bought some on the secondary, and any royalties that come from the secondary market trading.
So just literally good people thinking, you know what? I'm enjoying this. I'm going to kick back some to Jack.
Facts.
All right.
Yeah.
Beautiful, man.
Yeah. So
killed it, mate. That's good to see, man. Yeah, really cool.
Time.
Yeah, we'll share that link in the show notes because it is I had it saved. It was the one you said transparency time, yeah?
That's it.
Was that the first tweet? Yeah, okay. We'll share that out as well.
Quick question. Is my audio trash?
No.
Okay.
You sound all right, man. Yeah.
All right. Bilal been telling me that the iPhone mic is better than AirPods for recording.
That normally is. Yeah, try the AirPod ones sound like you're swimming in water or something.
Get the wired Apple ones are good though, right? The ones out
they're
the box.
pretty decent too. Yeah. They're definitely better. The AirPods are just terrible for sound for some reason.
Yo,
but
guys,
anyway.
Hold on a second. Jack, do you have anything else to share?
No.
Okay, beautiful. Because I didn't want us to forget this, and I know we talked about it in the group chat. I want to give a shout out to Alina Dimitrova, right? We got this in the NIA DMs, and just a special shout out for somebody that stands NIA. Alina has a podcast called 20 something, and I guess you guys go check that out. But appreciate the shout out on that.
Yeah, she gave us a shout out as her favorite podcast. I listened to that segment. It was really cool to hear. She says she listens since episode 0, so OG fan, killer game.
Shout out to my homie Chris Tran from old Vietnam days. Give us a real nice shout out on LinkedIn.
Man, that was beautiful. I almost sent that screenshot to my parents, man. Because they always asking me, what the hell are you doing on that?
I'll put that on my CV, man.
That's
for real.
Chris, appreciate you, bro.
That was good. Thank you for everyone always sharing NA with their friends and people, man. All right, so Jack, that was great on the NFT side. Just to wrap that up, the last thing you did want to also talk about Twitter image aspect ratio. I think it's related because you're talking about visuals on social, so I think it's probably a quick one. But what the hell happened? So one to one ratio is square, right?
Yeah, correct.
And so I think, is that changed? Is that what's happened?
I was just scrolling along this morning, refresh the timeline, and then all the images are letterboxed again. I'm like, oh, must be, something's up on my app. I'll close the app, open it up again. I'm pretty sure that is an executive decision to, one, reduce the amount of real estate that these image tweets are taking up so you can pump more ads in between them. That would be my guess.
There's a lot of ads on there, yeah.
And two, they're not going to crop video, right? Because it's like, it's very hard to see what's going on. And that to me is like a behavioral nudge towards we're going to reward video creators.
Say more. So Jack, I'm scrolling right now, and what you're saying is that they're like images.
They're capping the height. They're capping the height of the images and cropping them into a rectangle.
Are they?
Are you not seeing it on yours? Maybe I got a new app build.
You might be getting that A/B test going or something.
Yeah, it could be.
I fully get why they would incentivize video. That makes a lot of sense.
And for me, I've created 1,000 pieces of work in a square crop that just with one software update, it completely changes the framing of all of that stuff. So it's just a good reminder that these platforms, the way they choose to display your work, and more broadly for NFTs, right? Every marketplace uses a that 1-to-1 ratio in their listings. All NFTs are square for the most part as a function of the way marketplaces display them, in the same way that TikTok or Snapchat changed or informed the height of content. Yeah, for vertical. Well, it's interesting because even on the ad side and content side, you normally the square ratio, the 1-to-1 ratio is kind of the safest
one normally. Like it
Right.
kind of works across the board. And there's some even on a vertical like story, it will kind of crop. So it's not perfect, but you're still showing up. You're not getting cut off. And so, yeah, I didn't really see that in my feed either, but I wonder if that is the case.
On the mobile only, I've noticed it, Bilal. So
Got
I don't
it,
know if you're
got
looking
it.
on the
No, I'm on my desktop. Yeah, so
I wouldn't be shocked at all if they're, because they just released for Blue, like you can upload up to an hour for video.
Wow, we could start getting these on there.
we should test that out. Yeah, we should just throw it up. And
you know what? I'll upload last week's because it was almost exactly an hour.
Oh yeah, that's
Yeah.
perfect. Yeah, we'll do that. Let's try it out. All right. So let's move on to CES.
By the way, can I just say one more thing about that?
Yeah, go for it.
The thing that I think will be cool about that as well, the video feature, is the clipping that I think they're trying to do on YouTube. You know, where it's like user clipped.
Yeah.
I think it could also be quite bad. Like it's going to be like the quote, tweet, dunk, you know, like the taken out of context,
dude.
5 seconds of video. So let's put the eternal disclaimer out here now for NIA. If you like cut a 3 or 4 second clip of any of us on any of these episodes, could make us look like complete idiots. Yeah.
Yeah, we do that ourselves anyway. Don't worry about the clip. Yeah, but you're right.
But the idea of like building that into an inherently social network and having the like original and the ability to splinter and connect
and see
the
where
clips
it's
up
from
to the source. Exactly.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I think that's really where the like high level play is like YouTube has kind of obviously dominated long form content, but it doesn't have that same social quality, and they're trying to catch up. I've got emails from them the last few weeks, like secure your username on YouTube and do.
Yeah.
But it's not the same, right? It's like it's not a like.
Doesn't feel like a social network the same way like
Correct.
Instagram, TikTok does, right?
Twitter needs to add like on each of our profiles the catalog of like all the videos we've done, right?
Right.
That needs to like they need to have that archival element. But if they have that, it'll be easier for them to add that, in my estimation, than YouTube to add the social element.
Right, agreed. Yeah. They've got a better social infrastructure than YouTube, right? This it's going to be like the recommendation thing on YouTube is probably a decade ahead of them, but the base layer foundational social graph on Twitter is probably stronger.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is, I think on the video side, I'd be interested to see how it does, because an hour is amazing. They're letting people upload that, but I think most people aren't sitting for an hour watching a video.
An hour on Twitter, like that just is not what you.
Yeah, so I feel
maybe
like
it's picture in picture, like scroll.
That probably,
you're
right. On iPhone, you can do that, but I think just if they added background play for that, and basically had a place for people to just upload and like that would be a podcast listener, right? Like,
yeah,
and
it'd
that's
be the greatest podcast player ever, man. Like I already do Spaces sometimes where you listen in the background, right?
Yeah, you're right. It's the background.
Yeah.
You're right. So maybe that works. We should test it out and see how it goes.
Maybe they come for Spotify as well. Put your whole music catalog on there.
Yeah,
why not?
Exactly. That's
and
true.
You remember
That's
like the old school MSN Messenger with the plugin where it's like I'm listening to this on Winamp,
man,
which we were chatting about just before
back
we
in
got
the
on.
day.
That's the old like MySpace and all of that stuff is like the connectivity between like the media you're consuming and stuff. And I think maybe we've moved away from that now, where it's like so highly curated. Like you would want to project. Like I don't think most people would publish their music listening history 100% top to bottom.
Do you remember like on Spotify they've got it on the right hand side on like desktop? Yeah. And then so many people didn't realize that they're sharing the music. So I'm like calling my boy up, like, yo, I didn't know you like Spice Girl so much, man. What's going on?
Yo, bro, you've been hitting that Shania.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's pop music, man. It's like everybody's listening to it, but nobody tells anybody that they're listening to it.
Yeah, definitely.
I gladly, one of my nicknames, Top 40 Fan.
You got so many nicknames.
Fan wagon, right?
Yeah, fan wagon. Like when the Ariana Grande single drops, like I got that on loop.
You got a notification on.
Man.
Yeah, 100%. All right. Well, yeah. So let's talk a little bit about CES.
Consumer electronic show.
Yeah. So for people who don't know what it is, Trung, do you want to explain what CES is generally?
Yeah. I'll drop a little note on CES. It's at a minimum, even if you don't know what CES is, there's like 100% chance you've seen coverage of it. And the reason is, I'll give you guys some numbers. So this is a bit older. So this is 2017, probably similar to 2023 actually, because last year 2021 was no CES because of COVID. 2022, they had 40,000 people, which is significantly less than the average. Like the average you'd have in the 2010s is like 180 to 200,000 people went to CES. Think about that. 180 to 200,000 people.
Conference business is just nuts, man.
Think about that. 180 to 200,000 people show up to Las Vegas. 4,000 companies. They take over the entire city. It's like, I think CES by far, well, everything I've read and my few things that are as symbiotic with Las Vegas than CES, which is the Consumer Electronics Show.
For Las Vegas.
Sorry, I was crying. Why are you laughing?
They probably wouldn't make it on the, what's that, Family Fortunes board where they have like, what are 5 things?
The 5 things,
If it's up there, I'll give you the money myself.
I was cracked. The reason I started, I didn't actually see what my face looked like there, but I started remembering that I accidentally said breast earlier. That's why I was cracking up. So I was going to clip that for me.
Idea, right? So that's just the size and scale of it. So this year they actually got 140,000 people there, which was like, I mean, pretty close to pre-COVID. Yeah. So they're really happy about it. And it's estimated in the mid 2010s that the economic impact of CES on the city of Las Vegas, so not even like the event itself, but on the city of Las Vegas, bars, restaurants, hotels, for Bilal strip clubs, it's 200 to 300 million dollars. Think about that.
That's wild. What, in like a weekend or week, basically?
Like I think it's a 3 to 5 day event.
On those green Amexes, man. Yeah. Just getting
insane. Green Amex. You're going down there with your corporate cards. Everybody, it's full.
You're going for some hot wings during the day at the strip club. Jesus Christ.
I'll give you a little bit more background on it. So that's just the size of it. Here's a bit more history on it. It was started in 1967. It's run by the Consumer Technology Association. It's a trade organization with today it's now 1,400 consumer tech companies. But like CES has a super long history. It was started in 1967, but much smaller back then, which probably isn't a surprise because back in the day when you went to CES, it legit was just like a consumer hardware company, a consumer hardware show. And like, what did you have in '67? You had 100 companies versus 4,000, and you had 20,000 attendees versus 200,000. I mean, still a lot of attendees, right? But like, I'll give you an idea of what was being released in the 70s. So in 1970, you had the VCR, was at CES. 1979, you had Atari. 1981, you had CDs. This is a big one. 1985, you had the Nintendo Entertainment System.
Sick.
But this was the most controversial CES that I saw. 1991, this one's a beauty. I did not know this, so you guys might not have known this either. In 1991, Nintendo and Sony, so Sony makes the PlayStation, Nintendo and Sony had collaborated on making a Nintendo PlayStation. And they were going to launch a Nintendo that took a CD, a disc.
I had no idea this was a thing.
I had no idea, but here's what happened. It was mad drama. The day that they made the announcement that there's a Nintendo PlayStation, so Sony and Nintendo make this announcement, the next day, Nintendo goes, oh, by the way, we're canceling our arrangement with Sony. They want too many royalties, so they're out. We're bringing in Philips. And then Sony went on to make the PlayStation, which is the most successful console ever now. Dude,
it's like the Yahoo vibes.
Yeah, exactly. And then a couple other things that were released there is Apple Newton in 93, Blu-ray 2004. But like, so it's historically a very important event. And as we talked about, everybody
It's where you break. It's like normally where
Big
a lot of the
PR.
new stuff is demoed.
Exactly.
People break it.
But like, the thing is like, it's gone to a point though where like Apple is not launching the iPhone there anymore, right? They're not launching the VR headset. Like the most important consumer electronic company is not doing their stuff there anymore. But like to your point, Bilal, you're super corporate. Same with Jack back in the days. Like there are just some events. Like, can you guys like give us the equivalent of
You
some
just
events
go there.
Yeah,
and so
you have
that's
to
what I was
go
going
there,
to say. I got invited to go most years for work related stuff to go. Everyone's like, oh, you going? We can meet each other and do all this stuff. And after a while, I was like, there's basically that. South by Southwest is the other one where everyone goes.
It's like that,
and
right? It's like
so,
Can, for ads, it's
can for you guys. Yeah, 100%.
like
exactly.
you just have to be there, right? It's like
Yeah, it's a good way to like meet lots of people at once and kind of get to expense the whole trip somewhere fun and basically get to be there for a few days.
There's this site, I'll have to look it up, but it's like all the conferences in Vegas, and you can look it up like chronologically, and there's like rivet conferences, curtain conferences, just like
Dude,
the most
I went
obscure,
to a dental
crazy
conference once. Did we ever talk about this?
Nah.
Dude, this is the wildest. I mean, I've been a few times for like actual fun, but imagine me and my boy Anthony and my old team. This is at Charity Water, and one of our big brand partners. We had all these like sexy ones, right? Like everyone knows the name, but one of the biggest ones is called SmileGen, and they're like $1 billion dental company. So just
like
think they raise.
Are they like Invisalign?
No, they're like have physical. Dental offices all over America.
Okay.
And they're, really cool business, privately owned, I think. And just absolutely smashing it. But long story short, they were one of our biggest partners. So we went there to spread the word because they about Charity Water, because all of the dentist owners essentially are like business owners and they're like franchisees equivalent. And so we go, and our job is to go and like evangelize Charity Water to like thousands of people who then go and raise millions of dollars for Charity Water, which was kind of an interesting thing. But the best thing that happened in this thing, right? 11 a.m. Everyone's like wide awake, just been like getting shouted at about like Invisalign and all the latest in dental stuff. And then Pitbull turns up on stage, and we're like, "What is Pitbull doing at a dental conference, man?" And he's just comes out, gives a motivational speech,
man,
and then
incredible.
20
Mr.
minutes,
Worldwide.
Mr. Worldwide. 20 minutes later, the lights go down, music pops off, crazy like dances going on in the background, and people just raving it out at 11 a.m. And dentists don't play around, man. They really go hard. So pretty weird experience.
Because they got that loot. And the job is so like isolating, right?
Exactly.
I knew a family of Indian dentists. They dropped a seven-figure wedding in Lake Como, right? Like this is how they go. They got
They're
all
not
this
messing
cheddar.
around.
That's hilarious, bro. But
dude, my favorite line he said was, "You gotta turn a negative into a positive," and then it just drops, whatever the big Pitbull tune is. But yeah, he's a legend. Sorry, was it Pitbull I just said? Or am I getting confused? Yeah, Pitbull. Sorry. All right, Mr. Worldwide.
Well, dude, I love that you brought that up because this is something we wanted to talk about. It's like the idea of Las Vegas as the like conventions in Las Vegas, just hand in hand, right? It's just. The guy that runs CES Logistics is like, we couldn't do this anywhere else. They did for they actually had 2 shows a year. They had one in Chicago, and then it was like a winter time or summer. I can't remember, but like the whole point being like, if you're throwing a place where you need 200,000 people to roll in, like you're not going to beat Las Vegas, man.
Yeah. And you need it to be somewhere that's fun enough, open 24 hours a day.
Exactly.
There's massive rooms to do that conference stuff during the day, and then, basically go to casinos
let's
and
talk
all
about
the
some
other
of the
stuff.
numbers. Actually, you mentioned here's some rough numbers for CES, like how their financials. So let's say you have 4,000 companies come. Each booth costs between $5,000 to $10,000. So you do the quick math on that, man. Could actually somebody do the math on that? What's 10,000?
I was gonna say I'm not doing quick math on that one.
5,000 times 4,000. 4,000 people times $5,000.
4,000 people? Yeah, 20 million. You say 4,000 people or 40,000?
4,000 companies.
Yeah, 20
that's 20 million just alone.
Okay,
They're not. 5,000 is going to be the cheapest booth, though.
Yeah,
by
exactly.
far.
And then you have 200,000 people, and the pass is like whatever, $100. So then that's another whatever, right? That's another 20 to 30. And then you
20.
have huge spot like Google's going to spend $5 million for their
they do like activations and all that crazy stuff. So I bet it'll
be a 50 to 100 mil for sure in revenue for CES. Obviously, it costs a shit ton, but let me just give my quick before Bilal runs through the list of the ones this year. Let me give my quick rundown when at CES. So this is my take. Is like I wasn't selling anything, and I read about a lot of the criticisms of it from like the people that go, the people that set up booths, and then we kind of discussed. Right, you just have to be there, right? And but the reality is, if you're setting up a booth next to 4,000 other booths and you're paying $5K, do you know how hard it is to stand out?
Yeah,
it's way too big, right? I remember I went there, and after 2 hours of walking in one of the centers, I'm done. It was too much. It was just so
not to mention
overwhelming.
Everybody's hungover and not really trying to meet anybody in that context anyway. It's like a big LARP for a piss up, right? It's like a huge excuse.
It sounds a lot like adulthood, man. That's
there's a whole area of there's one whole Bilal's talking about the $10 million Google activations. Those are sexy, but then 99% of the convention is it's like people selling wires from Shenzhen, right?
Yeah.
It's like thousands of booths all selling the same wires from southeastern China and or India or Vietnam, and obviously nothing against these vendors. They got to do their job, but I'm even sure they're pretty frustrated by it because it's so hard to stand out. You have to be there, but I guess it's worth it. You got to lock in one thing, right? You got to lock in one customer. But yeah, man, it was.
That's what I was gonna say, Trung. Though is the interesting thing is it is annoying for everyone, and when you've done the booth stuff, it's so tiring and all that. But the truth is, for a lot of these businesses, they get one big customer on a B2B scale. It pays for the whole thing. And like you said, it's that kind of defensive thing. Like if I'm not there, my competitor is. It's kind of like Google ads on your brand term. You're like, if I'm not advertising, my competitor is. So you got to be there, you know.
And the booth, this is a really cynical view of it, boys. So forgive me. And if anyone listening to this is a conference zealot and disagrees with me, please elaborate in the comments.
Yeah.
But a lot of this stuff is it's great that it takes place in Vegas. It's like, oh, let's go get dinner after this. And the person you like hanging out with the most is the person you buy the wires from, basically. That's how the world functions.
No, that's 100% true.
It's like, oh, we're going to go get some Wagyu here, and then we're going to go and do this, and then we're going to go and, blast an AK-47 into the side of a school bus or whatever. An empty school bus.
I was going to say that.
That's stuff they do in Vegas.
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
Man.
No, you're right. No, but that's
the game,
that
right?
A business and that's the thing. I think a lot of people in tech, especially, the purists, are like, oh, I create a product and I just get it out there. The whole world likes it. But you forget that so many of these businesses are manufacturing. Even in our business was sales, right? So a lot of it is just FaceTime. So if
belly
you're there with
belly,
them,
man.
Belly to belly sales, exactly. And if you're not there with them, your competitor is taking them out for that Wagyu, right? And it's a thing.
Let me give you guys one more number that will blow you away. So in 2017, there are 7,500 journalists. 7,500 journalists on the ground that wrote 60,000 reports. So to your point, is if you how much would you pay to have journalist access, right? So that, dude, what a great business. It's a fantastic business, man. I'm glad that it came back this year. I'm glad.
Kind of the niche ones, go on, Jack, go on.
I was just going to say, it's adjacent to this thing that I thought was an incredible business, which is inventing certification stuff. Where it's this building is LEED certified. Whatever the acronym is. Where it's we made up this list and it costs you $90,000 to get the audit done.
We need to do this. We're going to do this next week. That industry, the certification industry, I've looked into it. It is massive. It's run by 3 opaque companies that have been around for 100 plus years.
We're one of them Forbes 30 under 30. Is that one of them?
Yeah.
But no, you're right. There's a lot of those lists. I saw someone, I forgot who posted it, but someone was posting a DM they got from someone trying to pitch them to get on one of these lists or something recently. And it's just, a lot of it is just, it helps you out. If you're 24-year-old trying to raise money from VCs and you've got a screenshot of oh, I'm on this Forbes list or whatever, I understand why people chase it, but a lot of it is absolutely worthless, right? It doesn't really
it's
drive
an opposite
anything.
Signal in a lot of cases.
Especially in our space, exactly, yeah.
And if you can't exceed that organically, then you're masking the signals of the market that are actually going to help you succeed.
That's true, 100%.
Please don't spend money on that.
Yeah, 100%. All right, so let's get on to CES. I haven't read through this whole thing, but
just
I did
walk
say
through some of the items and we'll
one of them I can see. So flying cars are coming back sooner than you think. Did you see this one? You guys, Aska revealed their A5 flying car at a pre-order price of $789,000.
Wait, 78 78,000.
800 grand. 800 grand. Do you
800
know who
grand?
posted this? Pump's brother. I
How
saw
do you
this.
spell how do you spell the
Here you go,
brand?
mate. Can you see this? Can you guys see a picture of this?
Yeah. Okay.
Yo, let's go through this thread. Actually,
probably
But it's
not
not
even
a
the best
flying
thread,
car, is
but
it? It's not a flying car.
Looks
it's
like a helicopter. Let's be
All right.
honest.
All right, so how is? Hold on a second here. Wait, let me see the specs. Okay, dude. There's this thing's go. You know what? Do you remember when the SPAC craze happened? There are a bunch of these like helicopter type, flying car type vehicles.
Yeah.
0% interest rate vehicles.
Yeah.
yeah.
Yo, what's this one?
All right, so this is a $3,000 wireless TV from Displaced. The 55-inch TV
Wireless?
weighs 20 pounds.
Oh, that's kind of baller, dude.
That's actually pretty good. I can see
Where
the
would you,
wireless.
boys? Where would you? What's the use case for that you're imagining? Take it to the beach or something.
Yeah.
Doesn't this feel like a Del Boy and Rodney
Exactly.
trunk? This is Only Fools and Horses, the show we've referenced many times, but the best UK comedy show of all time is just these two market traders. You can imagine them just selling this down the market, man.
Yeah.
All right, what's
Got
next?
a wireless TV. Here you go. All right. BMW revealed their BMW iVision D concept. Who's naming this shit? Come on, man.
Yeah,
What is
that's
it?
bad.
The car's
Dude,
That's
this
awful.
one. Okay, this one.
iVision D. Come
Hold
on.
on. We mentioned. So it changes colors, right? This is what we mentioned. You're talking about. You know what this is? This is purely for the 7,000 journalists on the ground, so they write fucking puff pieces about it.
Yeah. And the automotive industry concept thing has been going on for 100 years. Like,
Yeah.
people putting together some like extremely economically unviable thing that turns heads,
Yeah.
and then like get stories written. It's like more organic links to BMW.com so you can buy a 3 Series, right? Get you on
Yeah,
that
yeah, that's
$250
a
a month.
love that.
At least.
Wait, Bilal, can you go to my Twitter and can you play the video of the self-driving stroller?
Oh, I saw that one actually. That was good.
This one got pretty
Well,
big.
it's-
So let
seems
me
kinda
ask
funny.
Jack
Wait, here we
about
go.
this. One more down. Yeah, there you go. Play that. So for the listeners, there's a company called Ella. They're actually based in Vancouver. They built a self-driving stroller, a husband and wife couple. It's called ELLA. So, okay, I know you're thinking, you're like, this is insane. It's a self-driving stroller. Okay, the key is this. It doesn't work if somebody's in the stroller, okay? It can read whether or not there's a baby in the stroller. It's meant for when you take the kid out of the stroller and then you've like went shopping and now you have your hands full. So, Jack, let me ask you about this. Dude, is that a use case? That is a use case, right? Like one time a month, you were out with Ford, you were pushing the stroller, you had a bag of groceries, and then he was crying and you had to pick him up and you had to move the stroller. And it was difficult. Yes or
Could
no?
you not just stand in place?
I think maybe, but it's also just, it's also like probably you have to be in perfect conditions, right? It's like if you're in a shop with an elevator or something, it's like, well, now what do I do? Like there's just, how
going for a
intelligent
ride.
is this thing? Like how does it know where it's going?
And
That's my
anything with a
question.
baby, you gotta be.
And it's in
you
front
gotta
of
be the
them.
most careful.
It's in front of them. How does that work? It's
Yeah,
like reading their
that's-
mind. When's it going to turn? Is it going into the road? Like a lot of this CES stuff is like that. It's like, hey, here's a demo of our product in like a condition that does not exist in the real world. Here it is going in a straight line down this polished concrete hallway. Not for me, honestly. But I was going to say we should do not an episode, but a segment on, the technology in the design of like strollers and things in general. There's a couple European companies that are so sick. Like you buy this thing and it's so modular that it becomes like a ride for two, and then you put the skateboard on the back, and you've got all these little modules.
Do you know a lot about it? I would love to find out more.
Yeah, I mean, good enough. We like for Christmas, we got this little trike, and this thing is so modular. Like you can put a 18-month-old kid in it, and it will grow with them up until like 6. You
Yeah,
change
it's
the like
incredible,
position
dude.
of it becomes a pedal thing. Then it's like you can lock the thing so it doesn't steer. It's like the industrial design that goes into this stuff and grows with the kids is like phenomenal, to the point where that design philosophy should be applied to a lot more industries
Totally.
and products, in my view?
Well, speaking of cross-industry innovations, let me give you one quick fun fact, fan, about strollers. You know how the stroller is so easy to fold? Like the stroller's like one-click fold.
Yeah.
You know, like the original design for that one-click fold came from the airplane wheels when they pull up and down.
That's
how,
sick.
like how they can fit and turn and when on takeoff and landing. So that was the original or idea for that.
Well, let me show you, boys. I'll just do a quick screen share of. Look at this, Trung. You're gonna love this. I don't know if this was about when you were when your boy was young, but look at this. This is a car seat with wheels on it.
Oh my god, dude!
So you just get it out. You press a button, it turns into a stroller in one button, and then you press a button, you kick the wheels out, and it's a car seat
baby
again.
Transformers thing going on here.
This? Did you get
My parents
this?
bought us this, yeah, and this. Man, we're getting like real dad mode on the pod here.
I know, love it. Though.
This is the thing I was talking about. This scooter. How sick is that thing?
Dude, how much is that? $250?
Yeah.
Let
10
me,
months
There we
to
go.
3
This
years.
is how you know you're getting old, boys. There we
I
go.
know.
let me go on a quick rant about car seats. Oh my god, bro! Car seats. Okay, they're good. You gotta have them.
You got to do
But
it.
the thing that my wife, I don't know if this is the same in the States. I'm guessing it is. But when I found out that you couldn't resell car seats, I understand why, right? You can't. I understand why, because if you go car crash, it's been compromised. But man, I know my car seat is in 100% condition. I know I spent a G on that thing, and you're telling me there's no secondary market?
I think that might be a Justin Trudeau rule right there. I don't know if that's the case over here.
Okay, well, I mean,
But
for
it's
the
a, I
most
mean,
part, I get it.
it's a good
safety.
idea. Like
You
bike
can't
helmets,
verify-
right?
You can't verify whether or not it's been in a crash, and I'm guessing most people on Craigslist aren't being the most honest all the time. So,
Yeah.
all right, that's
right,
it
that's
for
the
Don't
me.
buy
best of
secondhand
CES.
car seats. That's a good.
Yeah,
that's a
don't
good.
do
There
it.
you go.
People.
And I'll say, while you guys were talking, I read through another CNET article which was doing a roundup, and honestly, there wasn't too much that I was like, "Oh, that looks amazing."
I like the
There's-
little sensor. The
What was that?
The sensor in the toilet that's like constantly
That
gathering
measures your
health
pee.
data.
Yeah. Oh, that was the one I was just about to say. That was the only one. And I didn't read the full thing, but what do you want to talk
What
about?
is
That?
that
What was
one
it?
called? Let's give a shout out to
I'm
them.
pulling it up right now. 1 second.
Celia had a
It
good
is
question on that when I was telling her
Withings.
about it. She's like, "How does it know who's who?"
Well, I think it
probably
probably
an app.
knows.
I'm gonna
A little
tell you.
app or basically the composition of your.
No,
Yeah,
no,
probably
dude.
because it probably
No.
gets used to one. No? Go on, Tron.
I read it. You're gonna laugh. I read a research paper on imaging of people taking shits. It's called an anal. Wait. It's
Somebody
called-
clip that.
to
Somebody
Tron's
clip
feed.
that.
Yeah.
You guys are gonna laugh. So it's called an anal print. It's like a fingerprint. Everyone's got a
Jesus
different
Christ.
one. No, this is like
Hey, that's
medical-
good. That's good security. Your seed
This
phrase.
is medical terminology. It's called an anal print.
That's ridiculous. All right, CNET. All right, by the way, we'll talk about CNET in a minute as well. But so this is the Withings U-Scan. I guess because Withings have like the scale, like the scales, the smart scales, and do they have like a little Fitbit style thing as well? So they're like smart devices or whatever. But yeah, so it says this is
We're
the one
gonna
you're
live
talking
forever,
about,
boys.
yeah?
We're gonna
Yeah,
live
we-
forever with this stuff.
It will read your pee. That's actually interesting. If I don't know what it actually shows you though. Did you?
Well, I think I'm assuming that anything they can test
Track
for
their
in
menstrual
you, like
cycles.
when you go for your annual physical, you give them a sample, right? I'm assuming there's some correlation with what they're testing for in that, because you got all the. I mean, obviously there's some controversy around the blood test, at-home blood test with old Holmes, but I don't know. It'd be interesting, and I think there is something interesting about like a metric that isn't purely based on movement, right? I would assume that the like internal stuff has a much longer or has an ability to predict things much sooner than like the stuff that's happening as like biometric.
Yeah, get you. Yeah, I mean, it'd just be interesting. I didn't read enough about like what it actually shows you, but you're right. I mean, yeah, when you go to the doctor, you do like a blood test and you don't always do a piss test, do you? But like, if something's wrong,
No,
they
you
might
should.
ask you to
You
do
should.
that.
I think.
To be fair, I haven't been for a few years, so
You
I
gotta
need
get
to, that's
in
on
there,
my
mate.
list, mate. That's on
Get
my
in
list.
there, the annual
Allow,
physical.
allow. Take care of yourself, bro. You don't want to be like a dude.
We got a
walking
franchise to
down-
build here, man.
There
Yeah,
we go.
dude.
Yeah, go
You don't want to die.
clean.
You don't want to be walking down a street of a random city and then crawl for 30 meters because your back blows out.
That's true. That's true. We end up on a sofa like you there. All right, so boys, let's do the last one, yeah, real quick.
Yeah.
Trung, how's your back holding up?
I'm good. I can walk through this OpenAI stuff.
Yeah,
actually.
I'll share this one tweet that you put out. This is probably is this relevant to what you're about to talk about?
Yeah, let's do it.
So, do you want to just read it out or share kind of the
Yeah,
logic
When
so
behind
was
this
that
one?
this is,
picture taken, I wonder?
So let me walk through quickly
You cut off there, Trung. Trung, you cut off for a minute. Say that again.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, can hear you going.
All right, so OpenAI founded, I think, in 2015. Seed investors included Elon Musk, Reid Hoffman, founder of LinkedIn, and Sam Altman, former president of Y Combinator, CEO. It was a nonprofit. It's for the development of artificial intelligence tools. And the reason it was meant to be a nonprofit was because they thought that the tooling should be democratized. That changed in 2019. Microsoft put $1 billion investment into OpenAI. They did it largely with Azure credits, so like cloud credits, basically $1 billion worth of cloud credits. I'm sure some of it was just straight cash. And then obviously, as we've covered, last episode we did a deep dive on Barely AI, startup I'm working on. I love that one of the Telegram people went, "Oh wow, 50 minutes of Trunk shilling Barely AI."
I didn't see that.
Wait,
That's hilarious.
Wait, Jack, did you get a chance to listen to that episode?
I haven't listened to it yet. I am gonna though.
Yeah,
Just
well,
been-
you guys got. Well, I know Jack's for the listeners. I appreciate the feedback. That video is actually our YouTube video, which we didn't even promote. It caught fire, and it's actually doing decent numbers. But I know there's been a lot of criticism of the Barely AI landing page. I would love to have Jack to just do a full teardown.
Yeah, let's do
Jack-
let's do a live one. I mean, we could do
Yeah,
a
we'll
bonus
do it right
episode
now.
if you want.
Yeah, well, we'll do it next week. We'll do it next week.
Do you want? Do it next week. All right, cool.
And
Yeah,
we'll
20
do the
minutes
Jack Butcher
for it.
teardown. Jack's already recommended the name. He's like, Trump, this name's not going to do it. But we'll get to that next week. But so now in 2019, Microsoft put in $1 billion, and then as we've seen over the past 3 to 6 months, OpenAI has exploded. First, their image creation tool, DALL-E, took over in the summer 2022, and then obviously ChatGPT has taken over the tech Twitter, tech news media over the past 3 months. So Microsoft, according to Semaphore, as of last night, this deal may not go through. So if this comes out on Wednesday, we're recording this on Tuesday. The deal right now is for Microsoft to invest an additional $10 billion into OpenAI. This is crazy. This is like a Kevin O'Leary Shark Tank structure. Microsoft gets 75% of profits until it recoups its $10 billion investment. And then
That's a
Like
Mr.
a boat deal,
Wonderful,
mate.
Mr.
Yeah,
Wonderful deal right
that's a
there.
Special,
Mr.
yeah.
Wonderful deal, right? 75% of profits. So to be
That's
75% of profit, that means OpenAI would have to make 12 to
That might be
15
for a
billion.
long time because if it's
Yeah,
profits, not revenue,
dude,
that they might not
12
be profitable for a long time.
12 to 15 billion in profits, right? That's how much OpenAI would have to make for Microsoft to recoup its investment. Just as a reminder, Uber has never turned a profit in its entire existence. Like over its entire aggregate, it has not made a profit, right? Not to say that OpenAI is like Uber, but the idea that you could turn a 15 or 12, $15 million profit is not easy, right? But let's say that happens, that world happens, that OpenAI does that. Then Microsoft now owns 49% of the business, and the other investors own 49%. And then this non-profit company that OpenAI started with, they still have that parent organization. It gets 2% of the entity. And the last thing I'll add is we mentioned this last week is OpenAI's structure caps returns for investors. It was originally 100 times. I doubt anything will make 100 times from 30 billion. Like that'd be a $3 trillion company. So that cap probably isn't relevant now for Microsoft. But that is the situation. And then let's bring up our friend Ben Tossell, who has become Mr. AI. So Ben had a great tweet, and he's actually on Bilal's podcast, the Creator Lab, soon.
Yeah, coming out next Monday if you guys want to listen to it.
Absolutely. So Ben wrote this in response to the Microsoft funding news. The real AI winner is Microsoft. It put $1 billion into OpenAI in 2019. It owns GitHub, which released Copilot, the AI-powered coding assistant, which is killing it. DALL-E, the image generator, powers Bing Image Creator. Volley, which produces an AI voice for output, is something that Microsoft just released. They're putting GPT chat into Word, PowerPoint, and Outlook, and then they're going to power Bing with GPT. So those things are all happening. I'm going to throw it to your
I would also show this visual, which is key here, which is the Wolf of GPT Street.
Yeah.
That's pretty good. I mean, you can't argue against what they're doing, man. They're absolutely smashing it. What they're doing is...
Well, Bilal, one of you guys threw another tweet there, which about Bilal. So, full disclaimer, Bilal is a former employee of Google. He threw in our three-way chat. It's so funny that Bilal put this in too. It's so funny of all of us. Bilal's the one that posted this. Bilal, can you please read it?
Yeah, so for people who are only listening, this is from Mostly Borrowed Ideas or borrowed_ideas on Twitter. I didn't verify any of this, but it sounds about right.
This is correct.
Google paid $650 million to acquire DeepMind in 2014. OpenAI is currently valued at $29 billion. OpenAI's revenues is in tens of millions, which, again, that might change very quickly given their trajectory. But still, tens of millions is actually pretty good for a brand new company that's just basically put this stuff out very recently. DeepMind's 2020 revenue was $1.13 billion and was profitable, although Google is probably the main customer. And that was, it was basically a poll around how much people think DeepMind should be worth.
Actually, go through that poll. That's crazy, man.
Go on, Jack, go on.
1/5 of respondents thought it was worth more than $75 billion.
Yeah. Jack, what are you about to say? Go on.
I was just going to say, what I think is an interesting way to think about the deployment of this stuff. When you talk about Microsoft Office, that's got to be 90% of word process. Like, talk about like normie distribution for a product. I would think it's 10 times bigger than Google Docs or like the application of AI.
That's a good application. Are you talking about number of people using it or?
Yeah, I'm saying like Microsoft plugging that into Microsoft Word is like, you go from like this tech Twitter tool that like, a couple 100,000 nerds are talking about to like your nan pressing a button in Microsoft Word saying like generate response to this thing. Feels to me like that's like the least sexy portion of the software landscape, right? It's just like bog standard word processing.
Yeah, like everyone's using it, yeah.
Everyone has Microsoft Word outside of like, like corporate use of Microsoft Word, I imagine, is higher than Google Doc. I don't know what the numbers are.
Dude, I saw the number. I was absolutely blown away. I think Google Doc has like 10 to 15% market share.
I was gonna say 12. Yeah, that's what I was reading.
I was absolutely blown away by that because, like you said, we are not the normie distribution. I do everything in Google Docs, but like, bro.
But I think that's also but that's paid though. That's the thing. It's like if you think of users, it's probably because it says here 2 billion people use G Suite, which includes.
Disclaimer, Bilal is a former...
bags are heavy. Google bags.
No, I will say no, but the other thing is a lot of these are free users. And then secondly, the big one is education, actually. Like all schools, universities, they basically been running on Google Docs for a long time.
Yeah,
what? Gmail too, man, is don't underestimate that. Like
Exactly, yeah.
That would be good. We need to, you know what we need? We need a Jamie on this thing, pulling up data.
Yeah, well, we got me, man. 100%. Don't worry. Let me read one more thing.
Trung's got it all up.
Everyone's who's watching on YouTube, every time it says Trung's iPhone instead of his face, that means he's Googling the shit out of something.
Well, Bilal, let me actually drop this from the thread that you found. I love that Bilal found that thread. Mostly Bored Idea writes, for all the... And he makes a good point, right? For all the adulation that Satya and Microsoft is getting for OpenAI, it was Google who acquired DeepMind for a steal. Interesting.
I think that's a good point. I think, go on, Trung. I want to talk about it after, but go on.
Yeah, interesting about the Google deal in 2014 was that Facebook offered 2 times as much for DeepMind, but they wouldn't allow Dennis Hasabi. I got his name wrong, but he's Demis Hasabi. Sorry, Demis, if I got your name wrong, but DeepMind's founder and CEO, who's a genius AI space, he wanted to keep his London office in London. You guys probably knew about the DeepMind guys, yeah?
Yeah. Well, I was just with someone who's was talking to me about this at Christmas, and they've got I don't know if I've given too much away, but a tenant that lives in their house is an ex-Googler. His tenant is now living in his place, works at DeepMind, is an engineer. And I was talking about what all the opinions are of what's going on. And essentially, and I've spoken to a few people from Google since then as well. The consensus, it sounds like, is just they're saying, DeepMind stuff internally, what people have been playing around with is on paper, what people are saying is as good, if not better, than the stuff we're seeing. But the key thing is it's only internal, right? So like, you know what I'm about, like if until you've put it out to let random people use it, it doesn't really mean much. At the same time, like me and Trung talked about last week, if Google had put this stuff out and someone takes a screenshot of a racist result or something like that, like Google, that's why they haven't done it, because it's very difficult to make sure it's ready for the public. And then two, obviously it's like the innovator's dilemma thing. Me and Ben talked a lot about this in the Creator Lab episode, that Google's business model is based on ads. So if you start showing people the answer straight away, that messes up your core business. So, but the interesting thing is, I mean, the stuff here is like you said, like they're actually on paper profitable, even if that means Google's the one paying, it's like an alphabet company or whatever. But I do think two things can be true. Like they can both be amazing, like investments / acquisitions, right? Like I think what we see on Twitter is, oh, look at Satya Nadella, he's like a genius and he's killing it. And like there's some tiny little startup who've just figured this out. They're like Microsoft. They're like the second or third biggest company in the world.
Well, the thing I want to add, sorry, go ahead, Jack.
Your question is probably going to be closer to this conversation. So why don't you go first?
All right, I'll just drop one last thing on the thought of it. Is like, I know I wanted to jump on Bilal's point. I know that from what I've seen on just Twitter, I know that the people at DeepMind are like Demis Hasabi, that's the founder and CEO of DeepMind. They are just like, they are so itching right now because it's so competitive, right? And like you guys remember DeepMind? They open source a lot of the research.
Yeah, that's what a lot of the ChatGPT and a lot of the OpenAI stuff was built off the open source thing they put out in, I think, 2015 or 16.
Yeah, the research that they've done, right? Like they did transformers for the large language models. They did like AlphaFold for figuring out all the human proteins, which was a huge deal, and they made that all available. But you remember, these guys were getting all the press for the last couple of years.
Back in the day, yeah.
And Demis now is just like, Altman's getting all the love. I know, like in his guts, he's just like, just let us release something.
Yeah, completely. Well, the other question, I think, and I'm speculating here / whatever, like I think there's definitely discussions happening at Google to say, should we be re-releasing this stuff open source? Like if they were doing this all over again, would they have released this open source or would they keep it for themselves? And I think generally, if you look at Google's history, they're an open source company. Like they did that with Chrome, Android. They did it with Android. They've done it since, another 50 other versions of that. But that was when they were on the come up, right? Like it's very different when you're now the third, fourth biggest company in the world. And this is a massive growing space that you want to own as much of the market as you can. Like maybe that position changes and you shouldn't be open sourcing stuff and basically allowing your competitors to use what you've done. So I think to finish my thought, what I was going to say though, Trung, was I think it can be, both things can be true. Microsoft are absolutely smashing this play here. At the same time, DeepMind is also like, best in class in what they do. So and if you extrapolate this out to like 5-10 years, I think there's going to be Google, Microsoft, OpenAI. There aren't going to be many other players who can really do it at this level, because just the money needed essentially for the compute power and the capabilities of that part of AI is only really, you only have a few companies in the world that can really compete on that, right? So I think that's one part. And so I think this kind of like one company wins, the other messes up sort of narrative is a little bit too simplistic. Right. I think both companies are probably in a good position, though one will end up probably taking 80% of the market.
Let me add one last thought on this before Jack segues us into the last thing for the episode. So Ben Thompson, who's obviously mentioned here at least once a month, he wrote about yesterday about how AI will affect all the big 5 tech companies. He has some interesting thoughts, some of the ones that we shared. He said Facebook's really well placed, especially around recommendation and like the human like psychology, like trying to apply AI to that because of how much data they have around that. So that's interesting. The other one they have that's super interesting was talking about Apple and how big of a win it was for Apple for Stability Diffusion to come out. So for those that don't know, Stability Diffusion is a full open source AI organization. Jim O'Shaughnessy, a friend of the show, he's the chairman of that company. So Stability Diffusion, what they've done super interesting is that they can run their AI models, because Bilal mentioned that these AI models are super compute intensive, but Stability Diffusion has actually been able to shrink the compute ask of its AI platform, and you can just do it on device. So you can put it locally, on your laptop.
Right?
Yeah, you don't even need a cloud access. You can do it locally. So this is a massive win for Apple, because Apple's been working, as we've talked about for the past, since we started this podcast, we mentioned it frequently, is like they have their own chip stack, right? And one of the most powerful things with down their chip is like on phone ML, unrelated to the cloud locally. And now they have this tool, this AI tool that you just run on a super powerful chip. And that's exactly what they've basically been gifted, is what Ben Thompson said. So yeah, to Bilal's point, there's going to be very many winners, different winners in the AI race.
And sorry, Trung, I just want to ask specifically on the OpenAI versus Microsoft before we round out with Jack. If those numbers are correct, which I don't know if they are, but let's say DeepMind's revenue was over $1 billion and it was on paper profitable, and they bought that company for $600 million. I feel like that's something that's kind of not even being talked about almost, right?
That's a YouTube level deal. That's a YouTube caliber deal.
Might be even better than YouTube long term for what it's going to do. Yeah, they're going to be able to extrapolate that into other parts of the business and sell it in the future as well. So, I mean, I think it's kind of in a football analogy. I think what Microsoft are doing right now seems great, like this massive deal. They're going to take 49% ownership, but we're already talking in the valuation of 29 billion, right? It's not like, you just found this random guys in Oxford or something and they're this tiny little startup. It's kind of like a football parallel is what Chelsea is doing. I have to talk about it once every week. Chelsea right now about to pay about 15 million euros for this guy, Joao Felix, right? And it's the most ridiculous deal. Everyone is like, how the hell, why would they pay for this guy? It's like 6 months loan. And it's like, all right, you're going to get a good player, but you're paying the price. It's not like you're getting a good pick. You're not like finding the diamond in the rough.
Him from when he was 18.
Youth division. He's not like Messi running around age 6.
You're buying the top.
Wait, Bilal, let me ask you one last thing before Jack. Can you tell me about this Haaland guy? All I'm saying is that he's a monster.
Absolute beast.
What's going on?
Jack, have you seen Erling Haaland? He's the Man City striker. He's the Norwegian guy.
No, I don't think so.
He's smashing records, right?
Oh, yeah. He's basically going to break all the Premier League records probably this year. And he's 21. And
why is he so good? Is he just
he's
huge?
like a Viking, man. He's like 6 foot something, strong. He just hangs out in the area, just barges people and bodies them.
Yeah, I read somewhere that he's not like he's not like, obviously he's skilled, but he's not like Ronaldo or Messi skilled.
Yeah, he's not like a dribbler like that way.
He's like a classic striker vibe.
Yeah, he's just going to body you and bang it in the net.
Any historical parallels of Premier League players that he gets compared to?
I mean, I would say he's a mixture of, this is coming off the top of my head, and for the 3 people who like football enough to know this reference, I would say it's like an Alan Shearer meets Mark Viduka meets Robbie Fowler.
No,
because these are like some old school players.
Who's the striker?
Robbie Fowler, man.
Robbie Finisher, yeah. Go on.
Wait, no, Bilal, there's a striker that was like named Van
Persie? Van Persie?
There's a guy they called
Van Nistelrooy.
Yeah, they called him the Tap-In King. They're saying that. I saw somewhere that Haaland is everything Van Nistelrooy wanted to be.
Van Nistelrooy was a beast too, to be fair. But no, Haaland is basically breaking all the records, and he's kind of a freak of nature, and he's only 21. He's also playing in, the best. Well, the second best at the moment, because Arsenal's top of the table. But Man City are like incredible, right? So he's playing in a superstar team and he just bangs in goals every week. But anyway, so that was kind of my football reference for the week.
he wouldn't have got a World Cup call up, right?
He didn't. But the interesting thing is Norway, as a country, tiny country on paper, but two of the best players in the league. Odegaard, who's the Arsenal captain, is also Norwegian, and Haaland is probably the best player in the league, and
Haaland's
he's
about to
Norwegian.
body
So
some
maybe
people
that's an
in
early buy right
2026.
there.
Yeah. The Norway long term, if they just get enough pieces in their team, they could be challenging in a few years.
The crazy thing about stuff like this is like all the Norwegian kids watching him play now.
They're getting inspired. Yeah,
they're gonna be putting in a few extra minutes on the jumpers
exactly.
for goalposts.
Jumpers for. Well, the last thing is his dad Trung used to play for Man City a long time ago.
I didn't know that.
Alf Inge Haaland, I think, which funnily enough, my brother-in-law is
Alfie.
Norwegian, and I think went to school with him or something. So he was telling me these old stories of being in Norway, skiing to school. They would do like cross-country skiing to go to school. Can you imagine that? And yeah, man, pretty crazy. That'll be a good fun fact fan break down the Norwegian economy, man. Like their oil reserves and the crazy stuff they're doing with tourism. It's
We
pretty
should do
interesting.
that, like their wealth fund.
Exactly. Yeah. Anyway, so I think Trung's back's probably going to give out soon, so we probably should wrap it up here. But anything else on that, boys, before we move on?
I had something, but we'll do it next week.
Yeah. If you want to wrap it up, you can, mate. Yeah.
No, it's a very like
All right, cool.
lofty,
We'll save it.
like monetization of AI thing, which we need
All right, cool. Let's save it then for next one. There's going to be a few more AI episodes. Again, thanks again for being there, Trung. Thanks for coming
legendary
through with the sofa setup. Jack, a few days after having a baby, second one coming through. You guys are legendary
We're doing it for
that,
NIA
mate.
fam, man. We're doing it for NIA fam.
Facts.
Yeah, 100%. All right, and we'll see you guys next week. Appreciate it. Hope the new year's kicking off well, and we'll see you on the next one. Cheers.